Joe Armstrong has led the virtual user group sessions. Going forward, Ben and I will be leading the monthly events starting today. So I'd like to thank Joe Armstrong for his hard work in getting this virtual user group session created, and the hard work in getting the sessions, the YouTube videos, and everything that we'll be using. So there's a few changes that I wanted to bring to people's attention. Previously, the name was the Pure Systems Virtual User Group. We're going to be changing the name to x86 Pure User Group. We're going to still continue to have topics relating to the Pure Systems family, but we're going to be adding additional topics covering the x86 server platform and items that pertain to rack mount servers, and also I'll just say Blade Center nodes type product family. One of the other changes is on the slide right now, you'll see the new email address. Before, people would contact Joe Armstrong, and what we did is we created a unique email address, x86ug@us.ibm.com. So if you have any questions, you can email that account, and Ben or myself will respond back to you. Today's session will be recorded, and we'll get it posted up to the wiki that was previously used by Joe. And then also we will put the video up on YouTube, so if you want to stream it or download it, you'll be able to. We should have it done in about maybe 2 days. It'll be up and available for you to download. If you do have any questions during today's session, just go ahead and use the question pane on the right-hand side, and we'll be answering questions during the session between some of the topic areas, and if there's any questions at the very end, we will answer them at that point. So I guess we'll get started. Today we're going to have Mike Peternell talk to us about Pure Application. He is the IBM Pure Application brand specialist located here in Minnesota, and he does have a lot of background and experience with Pure Application for clients. So right now we have his presentation up, and Mike, I will turn the session over to you. Oh, one last thing, we do have all the attendees in mute during this session, so again, please use the chat window to talk to us. So Mike, I'll hand the presentation over to you.
Thanks, Ron. How does the sound coming through?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, great, thanks. I switched up from, all right, well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you, depending on where you're at and when you're listening to this. And welcome to the first day of spring, although here in beautiful Minnesota, I'm not sure we are quite there yet. All right, so today's session, we're going to go through Pure Application System. This is a high-level overview, although we're going to dive into some details. First, chart 3 is the normal disclaimer. All right, so here's the discussion topics for today on chart 4. I really want to kind of start with, why did IBM do what we're doing, right? And what are we trying, what is the problem or set of problems that we're trying to address? So over the last 3 years, we've heard a lot from our customers, so I'll kind of summarize that and then, just do a quick reality check of the challenges we face. And I'm looking at this, so perspective is obviously very key here. I'm looking at this from the consumer perspective, meaning the business user, the application teams, those people that are trying to get workloads and business capabilities deployed, put into production, to have some differentiating business capabilities. We'll get into Pure Application System then. We've got a new term that I think you'll be hearing more and more of throughout 2014, and that's this notion of a composable business. I'll talk about that. I'm making the assumption that for many of you, this might be the first time you've gotten a deeper dive or an overview of Pure Application System. So I'll quickly go through the nuts and bolts. You know, and obviously, you know, what makes it different? That's the key point of this. What makes it different and what it matters to your organization? And it's all about reducing cost, reducing risk, and accelerating response to the business, right? And then we'll close with IBM's Composable business strategy to get you a bigger, broader view of what IBM's up to with this composable business. And again, please feel free at any time to put your questions into the chat window. Ron and Ben are monitoring that, and we'll pause and take questions at any time. So if you see something or you need some more details, just holler away, and we'll try to get to those. All right. So chart 5, what keeps us up at night? You know, organizational impact and organizational change. Any of you that are in the healthcare business, associated with healthcare payers, I mean, you've been experiencing this firsthand, right? As we have this goofy thing called healthcare reform or the Affordable Care Act, and we're going from a business model where we had B2B to B2C. So some of these payers have never swiped a credit card in their life. They have websites that are, you know, geared towards, you know, their customer, which is IBM. It's not Ron and Ben and Mike individually. It's a B2B model. So to now have to force to change this model, it's one of the hardest things to do, especially when you're talking a legacy company with legacy people and legacy thinking. So, you know, technology is a part of this equation, but culture, people, and process obviously are a big part of this challenge as well. You've got retailers trying to get into the healthcare space. So organizations continue to morph, continue to change. The velocity of what they're trying to change at, too, is something that, you know, we need to talk about. And then we talked about the inability to change the status quo, meaning I've got this legacy, we've got these great ideas, but I can't even take my system down or upgrade a piece of middleware because I can't afford the downtime and I can't afford to get in the way of business continuity. So even though we want to do things, the ability to actually put that into production or make that a reality is very, very difficult. You know, the next point, too long to get environments deployed, this is just a fantastic conundrum that I see in every customer. So we'll talk to individual groups, and everybody has, you know, portions of their infrastructure or applications or whatever it is. You know, we've all virtualized to a great extent, and we've all automated to a certain extent. But to tie that together from end to end, that's where we fall apart. So, you know, I'll have a conversation one day with the infrastructure team. They go, oh, no problem. We can deploy all that in a matter of minutes. And then a week later, I'll have a conversation with the application team, and I get a completely different point of view. So, again, perspective is key, and it's that end-to-end process that's, you know, at the end of the day, we have to respond to the business objectives, and those that get to the market first in today's internet-centric world get the lion's share of wallet. Obviously, all of you know about too many teams working on too many complexities and configuration details. So we'll talk about this, where we have, you know, a bunch of smart people working on a bunch of very best-of-breed type technologies, and again, tying all that together is there's process involved. So challenges to respond to the business. And there's cost and there's risk, obviously, associated with all this. Inconsistencies between dev, test stage, and prod. You know, this is one of the biggest complaints we get from application teams is, you know, why can't I have a consistent environment? I test my application here. I go over to the next environment. It starts working fine. Then somebody mucks with something, and everything falls apart. And then the key line, I think, I forget who I heard this from, but I thought it summed it up very well. When something changes, something breaks. So the net of this is, how do we reduce cost, reduce risk, and how do we accelerate this response to the business? So chart 6 goes over the conundrum, right, the IT conundrum. We have this velocity of business versus the IT complexity. So this is a chart that is made up of a Forrester consulting survey and results, right? We all know that the business, you know, the leaders, the CEO, the CFO all of these folks have this, have this smart pad mentality, where if I need a calculator, if I need a reminder app, I just go out to the App Store, I fetch it, I bring it down, and I deploy it, right? And I start using it. I don't understand why my IT organization continues to delay my objectives, right? If I can't get my job done, there will be some screaming for sure. And then you see some of the typical results in the bottom left. I'll let you read those. And we'll go through this in a couple of different ways. But I wanted on chart 7 to talk about, right, this, let's look at the reality of this business velocity. So, WhatsApp is a great, might be a misspelling there, I apologize, might be a great example for those of you that know the story, right? These guys went from being really seriously living on food stamps to now worth $16 billion. So that's all fine and dandy, but they have 1 million new users a day using their application. So think about what that means to your, to a customer, to you, to your organization, right? If I could just get, I don't want them all, I just want my share, and I'm first to market with that next killer app, what is that going to be to the business, right? Next point talks about a retailer we're working with that's transformed their business model from a product-centric to a product and services. So the CEO has been very public about this. He wants to change the pharmacy group to say, Mike Peterbilt goes in and gets a prescription, and, as a business, I get $10 out of Mike. Wouldn't it be great if we could get $50 out of Mike? So with this healthcare reform, et cetera, everyone's going to be shopping. Everyone's going to become now a potential customer. So why can't Mike go get his prescription and then just go to the door next to the pharmacy group and get some services? He might want to start a family. Maybe he's trying to quit smoking. Maybe he's trying to lose weight. Maybe he needs a flu shot, right? So if I can gain wallet share out of an existing customer base that I already have, what is that going to do to my business model? So these guys went from literally idea to putting 50 stores into production in 5 months. And before they had Pure, it would be 5 months before they would even find an outlet to plug the computer into and start the process of getting the infrastructure and then the software topology built to start the process. The last point on here is a medical device manufacturer. Again, kind of the same model. They're trying to go from just a product-centric model to a product and services, meaning, I put this piece of equipment in your body, so that's great, right? I've got certainly a wallet share and a transaction that takes place with that. But now through this interconnected world that we all live in, why shouldn't I be able to offer you, the patient, the customer, dedicated services? I should be able to monitor that. I should be able to do things like your blood sugar is getting high, your, whatever that is. Would you pay 99 cents a month to ensure that, you're on the right track to recovery? So in their case, they have a very complex FDA approval process that they need to go through, and we were able to reduce that by 50%. And the reason we're able to do that is through this iteration cycle, right? So they have a bunch of, they call it young scientists that are working on the next greatest, piece of technology that is going to go into your body. And they have this ideation think tank, right, where we think it, build it, try it. If it fails, in their case, they go back to the drawing board, and that process is very cumbersome. What we did is we enabled this sandbox where they could start doing things like self-provisioning. They start using the technology versus having to be technology experts. And then they can start this collaboration cycle. So now the scientists can work with the marketing team, with the doctors, with the whoever is trying to put out this next generation, whatever. And if I can get through 30 iterations in a month versus one iteration in 3 months, I'm going to have a better piece of software, a better solution, right, higher quality, and it's going to stands a better chance of meeting the business needs. So at the bottom, we have this tagline that I heard while I was out at IBM's Cloud Conference a couple weeks ago. Speed is the new currency for business, and simplicity is the key ingredient. And I think words to live by in this cloud-centric, internet-connected world that we live in. So chart 8, we're going to go through really spend some time on the complexities of what businesses deal with. So where is this slowdown? Where's the bottleneck? We've spent the last number of years, 10 plus years, right, going through this set of best of breed, and I want, the best database, I want the best application server, I want the best this, the best that, and we've got these IT pillars that we've built up, the best storage, the best networking, and I'm not even going to talk about hardware in this particular chart, but we've got a bunch of smart people and teams working on database, working on app servers, working on operating systems, working on virtualization, and what they're spending a lot of time doing is installing, configuring, integrating, arguing with the end user, their customer, which might be an application team person, might be a business person. Do you really need that amount of memory? Do you really need this amount of storage? Do you really need? And at the end of the day, we have delay. We're going to get through this, though, so we get through the install, configure, the integrate, then we cross our fingers, deploy, and we hope like heck that this thing holds together through the production process. I'll give the team credit. We'll typically get this, the first time we'll get it right, but then what happens? I've got to repeat this through dev, test, stage, prod, throughout the life cycle. I've got to make sure that every person makes the exact same config change, makes the exact same integration, etc. The likelihood of that happening is slim. And then, disaster strikes, right? A new piece of middleware comes out. So I've got a new release of an operating system, VMware, the database, whatever it is, and that just raises the red flag. So people stay on .old of all these releases because it's too risky, too costly, and too disruptive to the business to try to get up on the latest and greatest, because I have to go back all the way to the beginning of the drawing board and go through that process again, right? And here's my buddy's favorite line: when something changes, something breaks. So this results, again, from the Forrester study, right, in a number of delays, outages, and challenges that we face. This is the line that I got from on the bottom here from the application team. So remember, I talked about the infrastructure team. Yeah, we just push a button, we get this thing up, and in 30 minutes, we've got environments stood up. But then when I had the conversation with the application team, they're saying to get an environment, I need to call 17 people, call in favors, and it still takes months to finally get me something that I need. So different perspective, different results. All right, on chart 10, so what's the better way, right? How do we build a better mousetrap? So a set of what-if questions, right? Setting the stage for what we're doing with Pure. What happens, what does it mean to your business if you have the ability to deploy new technology in minutes, right? Consistently, just like you do on your SmartPad today. And if you were able to build up a set of enterprise catalog of IT assets, hardware, software, fully integrated, fully baked together, and I could redeploy that or have people self-provision that just like I do a set of Legos, right? What would that mean? If I had monitoring and management built into every single one of these hardened IT assets, where people could start doing stress testing very early on in the cycle. I could say, hey, I've got a new release of Portal, I've got a new release of Database, I've got a new release of Hardware Blade. Let's rerun the application. Is there any difference in consumption of memory, et cetera? So if I could get that early on in my testing cycle, what would that mean, right? I don't want to find these surprises once I get into production. If I could simplify the maintenance of everything too, we should, shame on IBM for having our customers go through these costly migrations from, I'll just use WebSphere.old to WebSphere.new. Right? It should be a non-event. It should be just like we do with our SmartPads. I should go to the store and say, oh, there's an update available. Great. Drag it down. I've got the update. Obviously, I have to do some testing, but then I should be able just to redirect traffic to the new and tear down the old. And that's the world that we want to get to. How do I take advantage of all these wonderful cloud characteristics? How do I bake into my workload automated elasticity, encryption, high availability, DR. Not all workloads need everything, right? So it should be workload centric, and I should be able to check a box, right? I want a Happy Meal. I want to check. I want to have highly available. I want to, have this to be automated elasticity to meet certain business level SLAs. So all of this results in trying to shift the focus of having all these different pillars of technology expertise to moving these people closer to the business, right, and helping become business enablers. So how would it look on chart 11? Well, we talked about this, right? If I need a new portal, shouldn't I be able to simply go out to the store, see what's out there, drag it down to my desktop, deploy it, and simplify all the tedious tasks that we have today with install, configure, integrate, optimize, working with all these teams, right? If I had a dial tone and I had a set of apps that ran on that dial tone and I simply needed to bring them down to my system and run, what would that mean, right? So again, speed is the new currency, simplicity is the key ingredient. So let's get into Pure Application System, right? Let's talk about what this means, what we're up to, what we're doing. So we'll start on chart 13 with the system configuration. So for those of you that have been following along, we've been at this for just about 3 years now. We've actually been in the market for a little over 2. We started out with a small, medium, large, extra large. So 4 T-shirt sizes. Now we have a whole closet full of T-shirt sizes. So you can start as small as 32 core. We have a half-rack system, single-phase power, and you grow that all the way up to 608 cores. The half-rack system can grow to 128. That's in 32 core segments. And then the large rack, 42U, starts at 64 and grows all the way to 608. You do the upgrades without any outages. All of those racks are highly available, highly redundant. I'll talk about that in some upcoming charts. And everything comes pre-integrated. So there's no, we do ship with one wrench, and that's to adjust the feet at the bottom of the system. But there's no need to go in there and muck with the system other than to plug in the networking to your data center. On chart 14, we talk about the high availability. So this is in all systems. This is a 42U rack shown. Same would hold true for the Mini. Everything's redundant. So we have redundant management nodes. We have actually 3 internal networks. They go to each of the chassis. So this leverages the PureFlex technology. It's built on PureFlex. So we have the different chassis you see here, 3 chassis, and then the top of rack switches and storage, of course. So the networks run to each individual chassis. Then there's a backplane that runs, a fiber backplane that runs through the whole thing. So basically 4 internal networks to the system, 2 storage controllers, 2 power units, 2 virtual system management nodes, 2 Pure Application System management nodes. And I'll talk about how the system, how we spent the time to integrate this so that we have predictive placement and replacement of workloads throughout the system. Let's see. Chart 15, a little bit about Pure Application System from a software perspective. So we use proven technology. But we spent 4 to 5 years doing the integration. So 4 years just to bring this to market, over 1,600 engineers, just a huge initiative for the IBM Corporation. And so we start with, we'll call it infrastructure as a service, right? Based on PureFlex, as we talked about, unlike PureFlex where you have choice of everything, because we've baked a lot of the integration of management and workload movement, et cetera, we harden down the choices of what you, flavors of different technologies you can have. So it's an AIX system or an Intel system. This is an Intel-centric call, so I'll talk about that. Today we ship with Sandy Bridge chips. The first half of this year, we will be shipping with Ivy Bridge. We bake in entitlement to Red Hat Linux as well as VMware. And we don't expose, we do expose Red Hat Linux. You could start with a base OS pattern and then build your recipe on top of that, and I'll get to that in some upcoming charts here. VMware, really, we OEM that, and we keep that hidden within the system. So we don't, for instance, expose the VMware management. We expose all the capabilities of VMware to a single point of management in the system. We do things like vMotion, that's baked into the system, and we automatically take advantage of that type of capability through the system, but we're trying to simplify the experience from you, the end user, so that you don't have to understand all these technologies. We'll pay the price and integrate that and then make that a simpler UI and only one UI that you have to navigate through the entire system. Networking, storage, and compute all baked in. On top of that then, and think of this as a auto manufacturing line, right? All of this is built in Rochester, Minnesota. As it literally goes down the line, things get baked into the system. So on top of that infrastructure, we add database, DB2 of course. It has Blue acceleration. For those of you that are familiar with that, our in-memory capabilities baked in. Full entitlement to DB2, full entitlement to WebSphere version 7 on through version 8.5.5. We include all versions of WebSphere, so ND, network deployment, base, and Liberty profile, which is our smaller, lightweight WebSphere version. There's a bunch of monitoring built in here, so we use some of the IBM technologies like Optum, Tivoli, and again, we don't expose that to you. We've taken the time to pre-integrate that and expose that through a single UI. So that monitoring is baked in. So you can get monitoring agents that look at specifically to WebSphere, to database, monitoring that looks at spindles, looks at hotspots on disk, looks at memory consumption, all of that baked in, and we'll talk about the roles-based governance of who can do what to the system. And then there's the management built into it. So one firmware upgrade for the entire box. It might be updating the networking, it might be updating the compute, it might be updating, but it's a single firmware upgrade, and we apply that without outage. The software is upgraded in a number of different options for you. Business as usual, so clearly if we need an emergency fix back, a security fix, whatever that is, you go through that single UI, through the management console, and you apply emergency fix backs just like you would today. There's the ability to bring down a complete portal for existence. So if there's something in the store and there's a .next coming out, that .next will be available in our cloud store. You would drag that down, and then you would have the drop-down window, which would have, version 7, 8, 9, and now the new version 10 would appear. So you choose what version you want to use. Developers do their testing on it, and then we redirect traffic to the new and tear down the old. And then there's the provisioning aspect of it. So a lot of people get focused in on the provisioning and the rapid time to value, and I call that a set of day one economics. There's certainly value with that, but the idea that we've taken the time to integrate all of the different aspects of the box. So we have this predictive intelligence in the system. I'll talk about it. It's much more than just provisioning. So it's great that we can take things and provision them and start using the technology in a matter of minutes, but it's another thing altogether that the system says, hey, wait a minute, this compute node has thrown 3 errors. It's likely that this may have a problem. I've got a priority 1 workload running on it. I need to evacuate it from this compute node and relocate it on a compute node automatically behind the scenes without having anybody intervening. So then we take this platform as a service, if you want, and add to it a whole another set of capabilities. So I've talked about this notion of a cloud store. So our senior management has said all IBM software will be available in this cloud store at some point in time. So as the different product managers go through their release cycles, you will see this list of capabilities, and I've got a list coming up grow and grow and grow. But today we have things like business process management, BPM, rules engines, business intelligence. There's quite a number of different sets of capabilities to allow you to quickly get, and if you have entitlement to this already, that's great. We'll use that existing entitlement, and we'll just take you from that install, configure, integrate world to a deploy and use methodology. And then there's a whole set of ISV solutions that we've also got in here. So at the bottom of the chart, you see that we have, for instance, SAP's entire business suite has a set of patterns or a set of Legos. We have Microsoft components, and we have Oracle components that you can leverage as well. So on chart 16, I kind of want to go through a very high level, traditional way of all IT shops doing deployments. And I'm picking on IBM's technology, but I would, suggest that this would be the same for any technology that you're trying to deploy, right? So if we look at Cognos, our business intelligence solution, you've got to be an expert in the technology you're trying to deploy to get it deployed correctly. And it's either, I pick on our stuff because I can, but this would be the same for any technology, right? We have to read the books. In our case, we have a bunch of red books. Clearly, there's other books that you can go out to the bookstore and read, but the idea here is I've got to be an expert, or I've got to pay somebody who prides themselves as being experts, get my checkbook out, and get this thing deployed. So in a Cognos case, we're going to deploy a simple 4-node environment, right? So I might have some HTTP servers, I've got a web application tier, I've got a database tier, and then I've got a content tier. Typical topology for a reporting solution or a business intelligence solution. So this is our product management saying, on a standard installation, there's 250 some odd steps, there's all these settings, all these integration, all these best practices that you'll need to follow, and then you need to repeat that, right, for every single environment, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the world we live in today. If we look at what we could live in with the Pure in the cloud store. So now I want that same Cognos use case, and I want that same set of capabilities. So I go to the cloud store. I say, hey, there's business intelligence. There's our Cognos solution. So I can get a demo on that, take a look at it, see what it's all about. I drag that down to my PureApplication System. If I have entitlement, great. Enter in your entitlement license keys, and you're good to go. If not, we do the licensing just as we do it today. At this point, I make some architectural decisions, right? I say, do I want high availability on this particular deployment, on this particular workload? Yeah, check the box. Do I need automated elasticity? Do I expect something to grow? I'm going to have a spike in activity over this duration of time. Yes, you want that to take place? Great. What do you want it based on? Do you want it based on CPU or IT metrics, or do you want it based on user metrics like response time? So you can set up, I want a response time to be maintained at 20 milliseconds, whatever that number is, and I want that, if it goes above that for this duration, automatically provision additional compute resources so that I can maintain that service level agreement. I press deploy, and then it automatically, behind the covers, does that necessary deployment topology to get that same 4-node deployment. In a matter of minutes, I'm now starting to use the technology versus having to do the install, configure, integrate, optimize. Okay? So we'll look at one more example, and the reason I'm bombarding you with multiple examples just so you see the consistency through this, right? So let's say I'm trying to deploy business process management, BPM. Same thing holds true, right? You read the red books, hire the consultants, whatever that is. There's best practices, there's golden topologies. And the bottom here is the best practice golden topology as documented in the 255-page red book for a 4-clustered topology deployment with an application cluster, messaging cluster, et cetera. Versus, again, going to the cloud store, there's the BPM, get the demo. If I have entitlement, fantastic. Make some decisions. Do I need clusters? How many? Well, I only need 2. Let's start with 2 for the web tier. let's start with this. It can grow to 5, or it's uncapped. So you make some decisions there. You can make those at deployment time, or you could bake those into the pattern itself. Do I want automated scaling? Do I want vertical scaling or horizontal scaling? One takes a matter of seconds, one takes a matter of minutes. If I have to fire up additional VMs, obviously that's a little bit longer than if I just have to say, hey, dedicate additional compute nodes or compute resources. Same process. Press the deploy button. Behind the scenes, it goes out, deploys that golden topology, that golden image. Now you start using the technology. And the notion of being able to repeat this again and again is very critical. And I'll talk about how you have the ability to sprinkle in your own customizations to this. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about this notion of building an enterprise catalog of compute IT assets, right? So I always use an analogy to do this. So in my case, I love food. So we're going to go and we're going to deploy Emerald's most kicked up meatloaf ever, right? So what do I need to do this? I need a set of ingredients. Some of these ingredients I'm going to have in my cupboard, my kitchen cabinet. Some of them I'm going to need to go to the store and buy, right? Then I need to do some assembly. Once I'm done with that assembly, I go ahead and I deploy. So if you get nothing else out of this session this morning, you've got a URL to Emerald's meatloaf, so free of charge. All right. So on chart 21, let's talk about what we mean. Let's talk about some reality here and start connecting the dots to this composable business that I keep talking about. So let's say we want to deploy a Java application, a member portal, a customer mobile app, whatever that is. Same process holds true, right? I need a set of ingredients. I need database, I need HTTP servers, I need hardware, I need compute, I need storage, I need database. Some of these I'm going to have, some of these I might not have. So, somebody in the department says, I want to use an open source Fufu. Great, go out to the open source, grab it, bring it into the catalog. We have tooling that's available to you to use that. I'll show you an example of that. Now it's in our catalog, and I can start doing the assembly process. So then we go to do the assembly, and the assembly is not only, IBM's going to start you out with some templates and some best practices, right? So you don't have to read those red books. But certainly there's, as every customer is unique, there's going to be things that you want to do to enhance that. There's going to be things like, wait a minute, I have my own security agents I need to add. I have monitoring agents for my enterprise monitoring solution. I have this, I have that, I have other things. So we allow you during the assembly process to bake those in. You can add those as part of the pattern. You can keep those as separate ingredients. It's your choice. But it's just a matter of making sure that they're in the kitchen cupboard. And then as you harden the IT asset, you can bake those in. So when the application team self-services your, compliant, if you will, portal, you know that all the security and all the monitoring and all the your unique scripts or agents are baked into the pattern. And then we go ahead and deploy that, right? So that could be through self-service. That could be in a sandbox where we're going to iterate through these cycles again and again and again. The main theme here is the consistency, right? The repeatability, the manageability, the sustainability of this process. So on chart 22, this shows an actual POC that we did for a customer here in the Twin Cities. They gave us 4 days to do 2 things. They said, we want to stand up this topology, which is all IBM software. So that was about a 60-minute exercise. And then they said, we want to stand up this topology that has no IBM software. So clearly we didn't have things like Apache and LifeRay and Oracle in our cabinet, our kitchen cabinet. So we had to go out to the store. We went out to the internet. We got a developer copy of Oracle. We downloaded LifeRay, which they had entitlement to. And then we used some of the existing components, right? So you don't have to put everything on box. We wanted to connect to their existing Oracle instance. So not, if you've got the petabyte customer file, obviously we don't want to move that, or you've got an existing, Oracle rack solution, et cetera, and it lives on some storage farm. Leave it there, and all we do is point to it. So the things in gray are things we pointed to, and the things in blue are what we brought on box. Took us a little while to create this. They wanted to sprinkle in some of their security stuff, and we did some additional testing. So a little less than 2 days to get this thing built. But now when the application teams go to provision this, it's 30-minute provisioning again and again and again. And it's consistent, it's maintainable, right? And we have that sustainability going through this. And now we have these ingredients in my enterprise catalog of services. So if I want to, for whatever reason that the business says, hey, we're not using Microsoft Fast Search anymore, we're using this open source or something else. Great, I simply take that ingredient out and I put Paprika in, right? It's that simple, harden it, redeploy it. That took me about 30 minutes. All right, so let's talk about composable businesses. So we want to have this API-driven service-connected assembly model. If you go out, there's some links about composable services, which will define this. I apologize, I should have put this on the bottom of the chart. Sounds a lot like our world of SOA. I know services-oriented architecture. But now we have things like open standards, people like OpenStack and Tosca and Cloud Foundry, where they're saying, the promise of cloud should be that if I want an EMC storage, I should be able to go out, grab that API, and plug it into my topology stack, add it to my kitchen cabinet. If I want Cisco networking, I should be able to go grab that API, put it into so now I can assemble this complete stack and truly get to this software-defined data center. So this is the notion. I call them Legos. It's a set of Legos. And then I want to enable this penalty-free zone, right? So I want to get the kids of the world to be able to quickly spin things up so they can spend time with the business. And they could say, okay, we know that business never has the requirements, or they know they want something, but they don't quite understand what they want. So wouldn't it be great if I could immediately I'll just pick a portal, a new member portal, and I could get that up and running. And now I say, okay, business partner, what do we want to do? Oh, let's add this. So I cycle through that, and I can do that collaboration cycle nearly immediately and think it, try it, trash it, reassemble, try it again, right? The idea here is to speed through this phased sort of collaboration cycle so that I can drastically improve the amount of testing cycles, the amount of collaboration cycles, and the quality of my end product, right? Because at the end of the day, it's all about reducing costs, reducing risks, and accelerating response to the business objectives. So this talks about the same thing, right? This first section is about, on chart 24, is business as usual, right? I tend to spin through things again and again. So I might find something in test that's not configured the same as dev. I might get through test and go to stage and find that something else is missing or something else is misconfigured or whatever it is. And then I get to production, and once again I might have a problem. That sends me all the way back to test and starts the cycle again. So delay, 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 and unfortunately outages once we get into production. If I have consistency through our notion of this cloud store, through this notion of having an enterprise catalog of hardened services, I have the ability to take that and promote that through my different environments. The more time I have to spend testing and collaborating with the business, the better my test environment is going to be, right? So as I spin through that cycle, I could, at the end of 30 days, have a pretty fantastic phase 1 deployment. Obviously, it's not going to solve world hunger, but at least I've now got something to market and can start gaining wallet share, and then we can add to that as we go through. Chart 25 talks about some additional things within the environment itself. So I talk about, well, provisioning is great, but what happens once it's on the box, right? How do we do things like policy-placed management? So for instance, I have a certain set of licenses that I'm entitled to use. When we start talking about this cloud world and we start talking about self-provisioning, people can go nuts. And today, it takes me so long to get an environment that I never give it up, right? So I have all these long-lived IT assets, and my maintenance costs grow, my management costs grow, because those environments never go away. In the cloud world, I have very short-lived IT assets. I try, spin it up, spin it down, spin it up, spin it down. I trash it, rebuild it, redirect traffic to the new, tear down the old. So, I should have better license consumption, but if my system's not smart enough to say, you know what, you're using a 16-core compute node and I've got 80% of the workload there, but I still got room to put other workload. And by the way, you only are licensed to use 16 core. I'm going to go ahead and use that compute node. Or you're only licensed to use 24. I want to try to minimize the license impact, so the placement engine, if you tell it to, will automatically try to place workloads to minimize license impact. We have a notion of prioritization. So there's a number of different levels. By the way, you can Google. We have a lot of articles and white papers on IBM's developer works that talk about workload management, etc. I've got some videos at the end of this in a reference section that you can go to and get some additional details as well. But the idea here is typically in organizations we have things like gold, silver, bronze for levels of service level. My high priorities are applications, mission critical, are gold level. So I have a different set of characteristics that go with them versus silver versus bronze. And if my system is starting to get to full capacity, does it make sense to shut down some of the bronze so that my gold can, if they need the compute capacity, they can get that. So those type of capabilities are also baked into the placement and the intelligent placement manager that's built into Pure. We talked about the dynamic scaling of applications. We talked about high availability built in, the mobility. So if I've got a priority one workload and a compute node is starting to fail, automatically remove that. The same holds true when we do our management and our maintenance. Because we have all this redundancy built in the box, because we have the intelligence baked into monitoring and management, I can apply fix packs, I can apply software upgrades, evacuate compute node A while I'm upgrading that, move the workloads back, etc. So I can do things to hardware, I can do things to software without having a disruption to the business. By the way, and I think I talk about this here coming up, so I'll hold off on the multi-tenancy aspect of this. Chart 26 talks about the pattern. So this is what's available in the cloud store. This is fairly old, probably 3Q of last year. This continues to grow. The version numbers on this might be slightly off, but you get an idea of the amount of content that's in the App Store. If you need predictive analytics, if you need SAP, if you need Microsoft SharePoint, all these things are available that you can go out and fetch from the App Store and simplify the deployment process. Chart 27 talks about the ISV community. So we have people that use IBM software. We have people out there that don't use IBM software. Sugar CRM is a great example. It's a PHP, MySQL-centric application. They do have a DB2 option for deployment for database, but they love the idea of having applications in the App Store. Infor made some comments that their support line, the amount of support calls they got for configuration-centric errors dropped by over 85% once they got their applications to patterns and put them in the store. So pretty impactful experiences for both the customers and the people who have to support that. Single point of management, again, we don't expose the different IBM technology. We don't expose things that we OEM, such as VMware. We integrate that all through a single point of glass. It's a roles-based entry point. So I might log in and I have hardware credentials. So I immediately see red light, green light, yellow light. Obviously, I'm interested in red light. There's a problem with this compute node. There's a problem with this storage. I might log in with the credentials of an application developer. So I start with the application level, and I can drill down to maybe memory consumption, etc. So you pick and choose as an administrator who is allowed to see how far they can go. We've had a number of customers tell us that we undersold this whole capability of single point of monitoring. And the stories that they're telling us is their amount, they still have issues. They still, we can't fix application problems, etc. But in the old days, they would, a user would call up and say, "Hey, my application's running slow. This is a tier 1 application. It's a net new member drive or something," and everyone gets on the phone, right? So we have this bridge call, and all these people get on the phone. They're all using different monitoring tools, and the amount of time it took us to find the root cause of the problem was forever, right? We worked all weekend, all that kind of stuff. And they said, with Pure, we're all looking at the exact same thing. We're all using the same tool. We're all talking the same language. And our ability to find the root cause of the problem has been significantly shrunk down to a matter of minutes, if not hours. So awesome abilities just through a single UI and all talking the same language. Chart 29 talks about multi-tenancy, the ability that the box ships as a single shared set of resources, and then you have the ability to dice that up into what we call cloud groups. So isolation to the network level, isolated compute, isolated storage, isolated network, so that we have maybe different business units, maybe test dev. We can have multi-tenancy with complete isolation from one another, so that when Ron is out there mucking around with his testing and everything, shuts down, he's only shutting down his cloud group, not mine. Chart 30 talks about some other things built in, so the license tracking for both IBM and non-IBM. Again, when we get to this cloud-based world, we want to make sure that we're not overstepping our licensing. So you tell us what might be Oracle, might be who knows what, and then we give you a set of options of how is the licensing metered, and then what do you want us to do when you reach that limit? Do you want to stop? Do you want to throw a warning? Do you want to log it and move on? We have full metering within the box, so again, you have these different environment profiles, so bronze, silver, gold. You can assign limits and caps. You can uncap, and then you can take that even further. There's usage tracking built in so that you can find out who's using what, when, where. Some people are using this to get people off of old releases. So when a business group, gets their first deployment, they never want to change anything. Well, we found a better way, cheaper way of doing this, and my chargeback model is going to be, I'm going to add $1 if you're going to use this old version, something like that. All right, so I want to close quickly here with a IBM, the composable business, and what this means. This is, I think, fairly significant differentiation of how we're bringing this story together and making this heterogeneous across all platforms that you might have. So we've talked about IBM's on-premise composable business platform, PureApplication System, but there's other members within the family, right? So we have an off-premise acquisition that we made with SoftLayer. So SoftLayer, I look at it as the drive-through menu, right? And in its early incarnation with IBM, it was all about infrastructure as a service. I want an Intel platform. I want VMware. And you went down the menu and you said, I want one of these, one of these, one of these, 2 of these, 3 of these, 4 of these. I want this for 2 months. And then you went to the window, paid for it, and off we went, right? So on-demand provisioning of infrastructure. Now we announced that all of the App Store, all of the Cloud Store capabilities are going to be on SoftLayer as well. So that same experience we just saw with PureApplication System will be available on SoftLayer. So now I can have the Happy Meal. I can still order individual piece parts, but I could then, I might say, I really want mobile. I really want Worklight. So just give me an environment, get Worklight deployed, and let me start using that. I want big data. I want DevOps. I want social, just to name a few. I want BPM, right? So all of those different capabilities are now built on top of SoftLayer, and you can get those on demand. Chart 34 talks about hybrid, right? So I just talked to a customer a couple weeks ago. I want to run CRM off-premise, SAP CRM off-premise, but I don't want my data and everything else to be off-premise. I want that to be on-premise. So we literally can take that pattern. We can say, okay, the off-premise stuff, that's great. Let's go put that on SoftLayer, on hard, on a private cloud, if you will. So you own all of the bare metal. And then I want the database, et cetera, to live on-premise. Now that might be PureApplication System, or it might be something else, right? So this idea of having a hybrid solution is there and available today, and that's only going to grow. Chart 35 really sums it all up. So this, if I go from left to right, at the top you have all the different cloud, IBM's Cloud Store, everything's there. The ISV applications, IBM software, By the way, this could be your internal catalog of services. This is all OpenStack enabled, API driven. This is Cloud Foundry enabled. We'll continue to mature through that cycle. We have the common pattern engine available on all platforms, so on-premise as well as off-premise. And then we have cloud orchestration across that too. So let's say I want to take, I don't know, a social pattern from my cloud store, and I want to put that on PureFlex. I want to put that on my existing x86 infrastructure. That ability, is available today. I want to put that in PureApplication System. Well, of course, we just saw where that's all available. I want to put that off-premise on software. That's available as well. And we have this ability to have a hybrid type solution. So you can see where this is kind of going, right? We have this ability to take the entire data center into consideration. If I'm using cloud orchestration, I'm using the common pattern engine, wouldn't it be great if I wanted to put things on PureApplication System, but you know, during my member enrollment, I'm going to need extra capacity. Well, I've got extra capacity sitting on the floor, right? I've got a PureFlex box, I've got an IBM X-Blade, whatever that is. I want to be able to go out first seamlessly to that set of compute resources only when I need it, right? So it might be a month, might be 2 months, might be 10 minutes. And then, you know, free up those resources when I don't need them anymore and bring that back into the box. So that gives you kind of the overall strategy and sort of roadmap that IBM's on. We had our Pulse conference again a couple weeks ago. We announced a lot of this. And it's really nice to see this vision of consolidation and commonality across the IBM portfolio actually becoming a reality. Whew. So Ron and Ben, that's all I had. I don't know if there's any questions.
Yeah, there weren't any follow-up questions, but we thank you for your time, Mike, and thanks for presenting this. And thanks to everybody for attending. We'll get the next invitation out within the next couple weeks. Looks like we're about a half an hour short of our time, so we'll give you that half hour back. And then we'll also have this video posted, a recording of this presentation posted in the x86 wiki link that was provided in the invitation. So at this time, we'll conclude the call, and thanks again for joining everybody. Thank you, Mike.